Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Deep Dive with Dr. Fitz, kind of setting the stage for next week's Safety Day here with all of our students, and a very special guest on the episode named Gary Patterson, who's Superintendent of Schools from Uvalde School District. This is one of my favorite podcasts I've ever recorded because we talk about something that's very important, and that's healing. So if you need a recharge right now, there's none better than the gentleman that I'm about to introduce you to. Sit back and enjoy. All right, welcome back to Deep Dive with Dr. Fitz. I'm your host, Dr. Sean Fitzpatrick, Superintendent of Schools here in the Schuylkill-Haven Area School District. Welcome to Season 2, and I am absolutely honored to be sitting next to this gentleman. This is Gary Patterson, all the way from Texas, has flown in to the Schuylkill-Haven Airport. Not quite. We got you to Philly Airport.
Yeah,
we're working on the airport, though. I'm going to get one of those built here sooner or later, Gary, I promise. But Gary has spent the day with our staff today, educating our administrative team as we work through the safety and well-being of our school district. And Gary, with that, let me ask you, if you will, to just talk a little bit about your role and where you're coming from in Texas so that folks can understand who you are.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for hosting me today. It's been a great day. I very much enjoyed working with your staff, getting to know them, very impressed with what's going on here. And you and I have known each other a few months now, and when we touched base recently and you mentioned that your focus at the first of school was going to be safety and security, protection, and so our kids can have a good place to come and learn and grow, kind of led us into where we are today. And just for our audience a little bit, I was a career educator in Texas, retired a few years ago as superintendent in the San Antonio area, and my wife and I live out close to Uvalde. And when the tragedy happened at Uvalde, a set of circumstances kind of evolved where the board and I felt like maybe we could help each other a little bit. So we talked about me coming in there as superintendent and tried to, after the shooting, and just try to manage the multitude of difficulties that the board and the community and the school were going through, which were, as if you kept up with it on the news, you could see that it was many. And so I was happy to go in there and just try to stabilize things and encourage people, and a lot of mistrust, miscommunication, a lot of blame, and the school district was really suffering. And it, as you know, one of the worst massacres in the history of our country. And so we made a commitment at that time, Sean, that we were going to take what happened in Uvalde and do the best we could to educate other interested school districts, other parties, anywhere we could get in front of people to make sure, is there something we can learn from the way Uvalde handled the preparation and the execution and the aftermath of the tragedy? Is there anything that we did that we can teach others or help others learn in their preparation in case, God forbid, there's an emergency on their district?
You had an opportunity to sit with all of our staff today. We had teachers, custodial workers, cafeteria folks, paraprofessionals. Everyone came together, and when you look out and you see the dedicated men and women that show up in our school systems each and every day, again, just knowing that you have a new purpose now, and to literally come all the way to Pennsylvania to be here in Little Schuylkill-Haven. What was it like for you today?
Well, I kind of see it as maybe not a mission, but we have a group of people now, a small group of people that are committed to talking to other people about this. And I don't have to tell you, you're probably the last person I need to tell how difficult it is to be a teacher today. We've seen pre-COVID, pre-recession, before that, pre-COVID, COVID, coming out of COVID, the funding, the pressures that teachers and educators are under today, especially our teachers and our paraprofessionals and our administrators on campus. It's harder, more difficult than it's ever been. The scrutiny, the anger, the culture, the divisiveness in our country, we're not immune to that. We get blamed for a lot of that too. And so just to see them come back, year after year.
Yeah.
I could see it in their faces today. They were glad to be back. You gave them ice cream after the end service, a lot of smiles. Little things like that go a long way. So to see that there's still people there that are committed to our profession, regardless of all the criticism and the scrutiny that they're under, they come in day in, day out. They want to keep our kids safe. They want to know that they're safe, and they have a good environment to come to work in.
We talked a little bit today about you're most qualified to help the person you used to be, and you had some folks step up from Sandy Hook and come out and help and say, we are here to help your people at Uvalde. Talk about that.
That was really one of the highlights of this last year. We had offers of help and generous donations from all over the world. And like I mentioned, that we saw the best of people that came out of that tragedy, just wanted to help and send and give. But Matthew McConaughey and his wife Camilla, Matthew was born in Uvalde, so he was very close and emotionally attached to the tragedy. And right away he came to us, and he and Camilla set up a company or a foundation for Uvalde, and they raised a great deal of money for us. And they asked, they wanted it to go toward encouragement, mental health, counseling services, any way for families or staff. They wanted the money to be able to help in those areas. And so when they came and asked us what was a project or two that we could discuss about getting this going, and we asked them to, that Sandy Hook, people know about Sandy Hook, but it has been 10 or 11 years. And so Sandy Hook and Uvalde's, the numbers of people who unfortunately lost their lives were very similar. Some of the circumstances were lived, but just still a horrible, horrible, horrible tragedy for their teachers and staff and community. And we were just beginning all of that recovery. They had been through it for 10 years. But long story short, the McConaughey Foundation arranged for about 15 of the Sandy Hook surviving faculty, custodial, and administrative staff to come to Uvalde for 3 days. They got in, and we had a reception for them that night. The emotions flowed. As you can imagine, Sean, there's not too many people that you can talk to about that have been through that, thankfully. But to get them together was one of the better mental health things we did the entire last year and a half, because we brought people who had actually lived through that to be able to say, we're going to come out the other side. These are the hurdles we have to go through. There are many. The emotions, it's a years-long recovery. It's not a few months. It's years and years. And so that was a huge morale boost to our community and especially to our staff. And we were able to break them up in small groups and have panel discussions in the evening where parents could come. We had a lot of time spent with just the Rob teachers who survived on that campus. And so it was just a wonderful experience and one of the highlights of our mental health as we address mental health issues, which when you have, we had 600-700 employees, and many of them, high percent, 50, 60, 70% were in some spectrum of post-traumatic stress. And for a school district, we're used to more one-on-one in a family situation, right? Or working with kids one-on-one, or parents or families. When you're working with several hundred people who are traumatized by a tragedy like this, it can be overwhelming, and it was. But with help with some groups like that, it made it better.
We learned today in our conversations that there's no set timeline for healing. And there's somebody watching this right now that's gone through something traumatic that says, I should be over it by now, but I can't. I just can't move on. One of the lessons that you shared with our team today is that those folks that did come and sit with your teachers who had been through it said, sometimes the second year is even harder. Yeah. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, one of the first Well, of course, the questions are, like from our staff to theirs, is when do you start to feel better? When does it go away? When do you not think about it 24 hours a day? And a lot of the answers were never.
Yeah.
I remember 2 teachers saying, in about year 5 and year 6, it didn't occupy all day every day, and that was a real eye opener. And year 2 was worse than year 1 if you can separate the tragedy of the children. As far as emotional recovery, year 2 was more difficult than year 1. Year 1 was fresh. They were reacting to all their feelings. They were dealing with the emotional roller coasters that the family has and the district had, and the media and the scrutiny and all that. It was just so swirling and overwhelming in year 1. Right. Year 2, all of that was gone, and we were left to pick up the pieces. And now they realize this loss is still with us. What's different? The kids' learning loss so far behind. We're behind because of their mental health and what they need, and the teachers need this, and the kids need this, and the parents need this, and just struggling to find our way back to whatever is going to be a normal state in Uvalde. Yeah. So that will take years. According to Sandy Hook, and I certainly agree that it will. And I think it'll minimize in time. Right. But with Uvalde, because of the litigation and all the things that are perceived to have gone wrong, it still comes up. Like you might see them on the news this week with some new litigation or some different things that happen. And so that brings all this wave of emotions back to the families and the staff of the schools. It's not whatever a normal stages of grief, because you take 2 steps forward and you go back to another. Somebody leaks some pictures, or somebody leaks an investigation that shouldn't have come out about whatever it might be, or another a piece on the police department. It never ends. We need that break where you can go from this stage to this stage, and it's just hard to get there.
Let's talk about the good that can come from tragedy, and in this instance, the folks that came forward that offered financial support, a helping hand. You mentioned obviously Matthew McConaughey and his wife. What have you seen in the community that you would say is heading in the right direction? Well,
I guess if there is one thing to pinpoint, we have a business in Texas that is one of the Fortune 500 businesses, and it's a grocery chain called H-E-B. And it's after the Butt family, Howard Butt, B-U-T-T. It's a bit multi-generational. But they do more for public education than I've seen anywhere in the country that you and I might travel around and see. And they're the biggest supporter of education. They have an Academy Awards of Education in Texas, and they roll out the red carpet. They do so much and give so much back. But Mr. Butt, right after the tragedy, the school board made the decision that we were not going to go back to school in that building ever. Yeah. So it would be taken down as soon as we could get through all the litigation. Mr. Butt stepped up with a $15 million donation to set up a foundation to build a new school without one penny of taxpayer money. And so they formed foundation, which we were part of the board. Of course, we worked with our school board, but also members of the foundation board, fundraising all over the country. And they broke ground on the new school back in, what month were we? Probably March or April. So they're building that new school, and they're incorporating Uvalde is known for a certain type of oak tree, huge, massive oak trees, and the center of the building is going to be this massive metal replica of one of the giant oaks, and it's going to have 21 branches on it, one branch for each of the students and teachers that were lost. And on that branch, it's going to have engravings of their favorite things and stuff. I mean, just so out of the worst possible situation, you're going to have a facility now that's state of the art, which is tough in Uvalde because it's a depressed area and it's been hard to pass a bond and build new facilities. So you're going to have this new facility that's going to memorialize what's happened in the past as we move into the future. So that's one of the bright lights that came out of the tragedy.
So you're supposed to retire, right? You're supposed to relax and play golf every day and sip margaritas on a beach somewhere, right? And you're retired from your work as a superintendent. You're sitting in your kitchen. Actually, you're with your wife at the time, and you hear about this tragedy at Uvalde. And talk about that moment when you said, "I got to get back in the game for just a bit."
Well, everybody, I guess, everybody has their own individual beliefs and experiences on faith and spiritual things, and I've told groups that I was a bench warmer Christian.
Yeah.
My wife was always the one to go sit on the committees and do the extra work and go to the elderly in the hospitals and do the Christmas things, and I'd go sit on the 11 o'clock service and go home. Right, I was a bench warmer. And my own personal experience was once it started to unravel there in Uvalde with the superintendent resigned and the central office and the board was just getting massacred on the media all the time. It was a very difficult situation. I was there. I was retired, and one day in the kitchen, I was actually going to the golf course. I was going to go to the golf course, and just something happened in the kitchen and said. There was this moment. It's very hard to describe. I think some people might know what I'm talking about, but there was just something happened. Said you need to make a call to Uvalde board president, and I did, and so went in, and it was. It's up to somebody else to say how good a work that we did there, but it was the most important thing I think I've ever done in my professional career.
Yeah. So proud of you. This was great. By the way, this was a great day.
Yeah, a good day. All of it. Yeah.
What do you think of Schuylkill County?
Love it. Yeah. Yeah, you got a job open. Yeah.
We keep pulling back out of retirement. We've got a few golf courses right down the road here.
All right.
It is so important that we learn and grow together in our business, in the world of education. And again, by the way, I had a script. I don't think I looked at this thing.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, actually, I need that for the end, but that's okay.
That's all right. No, it's if somebody can learn from the tragedy and maybe do a little different type of preparation, a little different type of training, because I can tell you I've been through, and you have too, the required training that we all have to do for certain situations, and there's nothing that can prepare anybody for something that happened like Uvalde. There's just no way. Yeah. But we can talk about what happened and learn from different scenarios and do a better job. And in our area, obviously, communication, things like that, preparation, security. There's always things we're not doing that if we talk about what happened here, maybe we can, and who knows, maybe somewhere down the line there'll be an emergency that somebody learns something and they can prevent somebody from getting hurt.
You feel like you have a new purpose?
Well, I feel like yes. I feel like we need to, as I mentioned earlier, we made a commitment not to let these kids, the incident, go in vain. Something, we need to keep their memories alive. Those teachers and that protected, we had four teachers, 2 teachers who passed away, 2 others that were severely wounded, and they need to be remembered for giving their lives, and and the ones who were injured are not able to come back to work. So they gave their professional lives and ultimate sacrifice to them, just trying to protect their kids. People need to know that they're heroes. And there were kids that tried to help their teachers when they were shot, and there were kids who were helping the other kids who had been, mortally wounded, just helping to, and that, that's part of the story too, that they sacrificed to protect, and we need to remember them and do everything we can to prevent something like that from happening again.
Gary, this has been a great day on our campus. We have loved having you here in PA and certainly here at Schuylkill Haven.
Good, huh?
I can't thank you enough on behalf of our staff and our faculty here.
It's been my pleasure.
Yeah.
It has. It's been my pleasure.
We're going to get together again someday. I know it. I know it someday soon, and maybe I'll come out to Texas and you can show me around the ranch a little bit. And we can play cow patty bingo. That sounds like a bad idea. So, but I've really enjoyed our time together. And again, I thank you for the work that you are doing right now, folks. This is Gary Patterson, retired now. I can say that, right? Superintendent that came into Uvalde School District, willing to take his time, be with us today. We're so thankful. By the way, this is season 2 of our podcast, so you're one of my first guests.
Yeah,
this is quite an honor. So,
good luck and best wishes for a great year.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Folks, be sure to follow us, our YouTube channel, and of course, we're looking to get on Spotify, so more details to come in future episodes. So be sure to touch base, follow us online, of course, and again, keep the positive so loud that the negatives are almost impossible to hear. Thanks for watching.